So, our topic for today is cross-sector insights, what boards can learn from different industries and how to apply these learnings to enhance adaptability and decision-making. So our speaker for today is Abisola Barber. Abisola is a director at Citibank, and prior to this, she worked for Barclays Bank in various roles across their corporate and investment bank. She also holds a non-exec director role in higher education, serving as an independent lay member of the University of York's Governing Council and an advisory board member to the School of Business and Society at the University of York. Abisola also serves as the Head of Alumni Community for Women in Banking and Finance UK. She's a recognised Chartered Companion of the Chartered Management Institute, representing the top leaders across the UK. She's been recognised and awarded for her work in diversity, equality and inclusion, both inside the workplace and in society by the likes of the Financial Times, the Black British Business Awards and Yahoo Finance. So, Abisola, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This topic today that I'd love to talk to you all about is how we can leverage insights from other industries when we're thinking about the boards that we're on. And it was a topic that I chose because as I reflected both on my journey going into becoming a non-exec, as well as having that parallel to my executive career, one thing that really was close to the question and decision making of whether it was the right thing to do was how can I use my skill sets from my executive career and also apply them into my non-executive career, and also what can I learn and how can I really demonstrate effectiveness and be the best that I can be within that role, and make sure that within the non-exec work that I'm being able to contribute for their betterment as well. So we're really looking at driving better decision making, looking at innovation and ideas for advancement for all of the boards at all different levels. And this topic is not industry specific, it is completely agnostic. So I'd love for you all to have a think about the different boards and the different industries that you're on and that you play a part within, and think about how you can bring the skill sets and your own USPs to what you do within your board roles. And for me, I find it particularly important for us to think about this topic, especially in this day and age. We've got so much advancing technology. We've got so many different alternative perspectives and approaches and attitudes that we can really consider that can drive change and drive innovation in so many different ways. We're seeing increasing complexity, increasing globalization, increasing connectiveness, but also decreasing connectiveness in so many ways, and decreasing success and scalability for lack of using the key skills that people bring to the table. So how do we make sure we are continuing to drive change, increase competitiveness, think outside of the box, be creative, and bring everyone on that journey with us? Now, for me, I find that there are quite a number of benefits of cross-sector learning, and I think that's actually why I see such a richness in this topic and why it's so applicable to all that we do. I think, first of all, the top point that I'd like to make is actually adaptability, and I mentioned this very briefly a minute ago. I think being able to learn what works and what doesn't work from a range of different industries and skill sets really helps with thinking about rigor, really helps us to approach and adapt to challenges and to changes, and to make sure that we are robust, to make sure that we are, agile and innovative in a way that allows us to flex and be adaptive to the situation and the surroundings that we find ourselves in. I think COVID is a fantastic example in recent years of where it's been so important to be adaptable and to leverage the skill sets of people that are adaptable to ensure that we are resilient. I love the idea of innovation and fresh perspectives that those with different backgrounds and experiences and expertise bring, especially when it comes to boards that are in other areas from where you may have an executive career or an executive skill set. It allows you to then almost borrow some of those ideas and thought patterns and processes to bring in that injection to really stimulate some of the creative solutions that can come about. I think about my roles in my non-exec world, which is within higher education, and my executive career in financial services. And whilst you might not immediately see some similarities between the two, obviously finance being the backbone of quite a lot of what everyone does, there's actually a lot of governance. There's a lot of participation. There are multiple stakeholders that you really need to take into account and factor in their perspectives and how that might affect decision making. So bringing alternative perspectives and innovation on how you might deal with some of those challenges and situations, I find is really beneficial. And one of the third benefits that I really find, which I think is fundamental to any board, regardless of the industry, is risk management and learning the key skills and benefits of risk management from other industries. I think if we take particular attention and pay particular attention to areas that, may have higher regulatory scrutiny, such as financial services or technology or even healthcare, which we've seen, especially in the last 50 to 100 years, really, really significant advances in how they think and how they manage risk. It can really strengthen our own governance processes and how we risk manage in each of the different industries and boards that we find ourselves on. So I think there's a wealth of different benefits from being able to learn across sector and apply how we adapt and how we behave and engage in those to really strengthen the work that we do in our non-executive careers. And some examples, I was thinking as I was preparing this talk now, where have we seen this happen really well? I could give you a laundry list of where we've seen it not happen so well, but I thought that might not be so beneficial for a Monday afternoon. So let's look at the positive and let's look at places where it has been done quite well. Focusing, for example, on more customer-centric models. We've seen, particularly within the retail and the technology sector, we see advances in particularly wearable tech and thinking about consumers themselves. What is it that they want to see? How do they want their the output of what they're using to behave and to perform for them? How does the customer want to be approached? We're seeing mentalities and mindsets change to focus more and to really benefit and learn from one another, particularly in those sectors. Digital transformation is a very, very obvious example as well, particularly if you look at areas like manufacturing, particularly if you look at even as I say, picked up COVID as a recent example, the need for very quick, very agile digital transformation and also crisis management in that sense. I think there's almost every single industry that we face in this country in particular had to go through some form of digital transformation in the last 5 years to cope and adjust with the changing environment that it was in. And so learning how industries that are actually corely focused in those respects, how you could learn best practices from them to deploy them in the fields that you find yourselves in. And so I looked up a couple of examples where I thought, okay, well, where are there boards where they've had a very diverse or a range of non-executives who have executive careers or who have had executive careers. And you can really see a tangible read across of where that executive and the skills that they have brought to the table have really transformed the board that they've sat on. And so a couple that I found as I was doing some research on this, I looked at the Walt Disney Company, which obviously a huge American company based within the entertainment and the media sector. And over the last few years, especially with the launch of Disney Plus in 2019, there have been a number of key strategic moves that the Walt Disney Company have played to really actually focus on, as I said, consumer-centric models, looking at that direct-to-consumer streaming service, particularly through Disney Plus, but also as they've leveraged and acquisitioned a whole heap of other sort of broad transmitters and sort of entertainment giants. So I'm a big Marvel fan. And so for me, I found it particularly interesting looking at the strategic model behind why they purchased Marvel, Pixar, and Lucasfilm. And then I was looking at the board members for the Walt Disney Company, and I noticed that Mary Barra, who was the former CEO of General Motors, sits on the Walt Disney Company board. General Motors, automobile, gone through a lot of change over the last number of years. And so the expertise that Mary can bring to that board. Safra Katz, who's the CEO of Oracle, again, technology, another industry very much unlike broader entertainment and media, but the pace of change and the innovation and the agility and the drive that you learn from that industry, very much clearly playing a part here with Walt Disney Company. And finally, Derica Rice, who's the former executive of CVS Health, which is a pharmaceutical company based in the States. Again, healthcare, which is renowned for its modernization and changes that it's had to make and drive. So bringing together, this focus on different changes to strategy and deployment, alternative methods of thinking and behavioral models to actually really change and position the board that they sit on, I thought was a really fantastic example. And bringing us a little bit closer to home, I also looked at the cooperative group, which most of you, most of us all know. Of course, they have their banking arm and the building society lends to it, but it's also a retail and consumer goods, broader community-focused business. Of course, they are known for their ethical sourcing. They're known for their fair trade. They're known for their partnership model in that respect, and increasing focus of that in that nature. But when you look at the composition of their board, a few key people just to pick out and identify: Adrian Marsh, who is one of their independent non-execs. Adrian has come from DS Smith, from Tesco, and from AstraZeneca. a fantastic competitor, so to speak, to the Co-op Group from Tesco. So bringing that peer-to-peer knowledge, but also AstraZeneca, healthcare and pharmaceuticals. So what are we learning from those industries to then play a part in some of the development that Co-op Group has also seen recently? Another to call out is Alan Leighton, who is the chair of the Co-op Group. Now, Alan has previously served on the Royal Mail Board, the Boots Company, and Carphone Warehouse, three very, very different industries in comparison to the cooperative group. But that cross-sector ability to, analyze, deploy, run, and lead strategically, I think is a really, really fantastic example of the nature of the multiple skill sets that can be deployed and really strengthened through your work in the non-executive roles that you play. And so, how do we apply some of our own skill sets that we learn from our executive careers to the non-executive world that we sit on? You can look at long-term value creation. You can look at how do you better position the board that you sit on for long-term value through the skill sets that you may have. Now, personally, mine rest more within the risk management and broader strategic vision. And so, how do I deliver and deploy that into the board roles that I sit in? You might look at fostering innovation, particularly if you work in a highly regulated or high pace environment, such as technology or healthcare, where you're needing to be creative and innovative with what you do. How do you apply that to housing associations? How do you think about innovative methods and ways to deliver the causes of your boards in the ways that are beneficial for those that they are serving? But we've also got to be aware of some of the challenges that we may face with this also. We need to make sure that we don't overcomplicate things. I think in particular, being in quite a highly regulated environment and for quite a large bank globally, we may sometimes find ourselves overcomplicating things because we want to get it right. And so sometimes there often can be layers of bureaucracy. But we've also got to be careful that we don't bring some of the challenges we face in our executive careers over also into our non-executive. So try and remember simplicity is best, and what are the core needs and what are the core purposes of the boards and the companies that we are serving and representing, and also tailoring to the industry. It's not appropriate for me to completely borrow, so to speak, or lift and drop some of the learnings I have from financial services and particularly investment banking and markets over into the higher education industry. They're not sort of on a par in that sense, and it wouldn't be appropriate. And so we have to make sure that our approach is tailored. Boards need to make sure that what they focus on is being critically assessed, that it fits for what the purpose of the company or the organization is. Not every practice from every industry or every skill set that we may have will be directly applicable, but we do have that cross-sector knowledge, that almost flexibility in our ability to perform and share that skill set across the board. And so, a few calls to action, if I may, as I summarize and wrap up. I hope that there have been a few nuggets that you've been able to pick up and have got you thinking, well, what are my skill sets and how can I apply them? But I think the most important thing was we think about how we can leverage our skill sets from our executive to our non-executive career. Think about being innovative. Think about being adaptable and think about how you can better support risk management with the skill sets that you have. Think in your meetings, what would X do? What would Y do? How would different industries face the situations that we are currently in? And see if you can learn from either previous examples or even hypothetical situations. I do still find are helpful just to help me think through certain examples. But most importantly, and I think we all are, especially for joining just after 12:30 on a Monday morning, be open-minded, be forward-thinking, learn from one another, because I do find that a board that is open-minded, that is forward-thinking, and that is collaborative is a better equipped board to navigate some of the different uncertainties and challenges that we have, but also works together, partners together, and delivers the outcome that is needed.
Abisola, thank you so much. You've given a heap to think about there.